Every textbook will tell you Mars is red, Saturn has rings, and Jupiter is big. Congratulations, you've passed third-grade astronomy. But hidden in mission data, peer-reviewed papers, and spacecraft that literally sacrifice themselves for science, are planetary facts so weird they barely get mentioned. Some of them completely change what we thought we knew about our own solar system. So here are 10 planet facts NASA doesn't talk about enough. But number 1, Saturn's rings are younger than the dinosaurs. You've seen Saturn's rings your entire life. Every space poster, every science museum, every kid who's drawn Saturn since crayons were invented puts rings around it like it's the planet's permanent fashion accessory. But here's the twist. When T-Rex walked the Earth, Saturn might not have had rings at all. For decades, astronomers assumed Saturn's rings formed at the same time as the solar system, about 4.5 billion years ago. Basically ancient cosmic furniture. Then came NASA's Cassini spacecraft. In 2017, after 13 years orbiting Saturn, Cassini did something heroic. It dived straight through the rings before burning up in the planet's atmosphere. Scientists used that final data to measure something called ring rain. Tiny bits of the rings are constantly falling into Saturn's atmosphere, and Cassini discovered the rain rate was ridiculous. So ridiculous that the rings would completely disappear in about 100 million years. Working backwards, scientists realized something shocking. The rings are probably only 10 to 100 million years old. In cosmic terms, that's basically yesterday. The leading theory: a moon wandered too close to Saturn and got shredded by gravity. Or a comet smashed into something and created a giant debris halo. Either way, Saturn's rings are temporary, meaning if an alien civilization checks out our solar system a few 100 million years from now, they'll see Saturn and say, "Nice planet, needs accessories though." Right now, we're living in a rare cosmic moment where Saturn happens to look like the most photogenic planet in the solar system. Number 2, Uranus smells like rotten eggs. Let's talk about Uranus. Yes, I know, the jokes write themselves, but scientists confirmed something in 2018 that somehow makes the planet even funnier. If you could stand inside the clouds of Uranus, the smell would be absolutely horrifying. Not because of alien bacteria, not because of toxic chemicals, because it smells like rotten eggs. Astronomers using the Gemini North Telescope in Hawaii finally detected hydrogen sulfide in Uranus's upper atmosphere. Hydrogen sulfide is the same gas responsible for the smell of, well, rotten eggs, or that one refrigerator container everyone is afraid to open. The discovery solved a debate that lasted more than 30 years. Scientists had been arguing about what Uranus's clouds were made of. Jupiter and Saturn have clouds dominated by ammonia, which smells like extremely aggressive cleaning products. But Uranus, it's dominated by hydrogen sulfide. This also tells us something about where Uranus formed. Hydrogen sulfide is more common farther from the Sun, meaning Uranus probably formed in a colder region of the early solar system. So if you're planning a vacation to the outer planets, here's the atmospheric review. Jupiter smells like ammonia. Saturn, also ammonia. Uranus and Neptune, cosmic rotten eggs. Basically, the outer solar system smells like a chemistry lab and a forgotten breakfast sandwich. Number 3, Jupiter has a fuzzy, dissolved core. Everything you learned about Jupiter probably included one simple idea. At the center of the planet is a dense rock core, nice and solid, like a giant marble buried under layers of gas. Except, that might be completely wrong. When NASA's Juno spacecraft arrived at Jupiter in 2016, it started measuring tiny changes in the planet's gravity. These measurements are insanely precise. Juno can detect tiny wobbles in Jupiter's gravity field while orbiting thousands of kilometers above the clouds. And those wobbles revealed something weird. Jupiter's core isn't a solid ball. Instead, it's more like a fuzzy blob, a massive region where heavy elements are mixed into the surrounding hydrogen, spreading across half the planet's diameter. So, how do you turn a solid core into planetary soup? One theory involves something dramatic. About 4.5 billion years ago, Jupiter may have been smashed by a protoplanet roughly 10 times the mass of Earth. That collision would have blasted material outward and mixed the core into the surrounding layers. Imagine dropping a bowling ball into a giant tank of molten metal. Everything gets stirred. We'd never have known any of this without Juno measuring gravity ripples from orbit. So Jupiter might not just be big, it might also be the survivor of one of the largest collisions in solar system history. Number 4. Mercury is shrinking. Mercury already has a rough life. It's the closest planet to the Sun. Its surface temperature swings from 430 degrees Celsius during the day to 180 degrees Celsius at night. But it also has another problem. It's shrinking, and scientists have actually measured it. NASA's Messenger spacecraft, which orbited Mercury from 2011 to 2015, mapped thousands of giant cliffs across the planet. These cliffs are called lobate scarps. They look like massive wrinkles across the surface. Some stretch hundreds of kilometers long. They formed because Mercury's interior has been cooling for billions of years. As it cools, it contracts, just like a grape turning into a raisin. Scientists estimate Mercury has shrunk by up to 7 kilometers in radius since it formed. That might not sound like much, but on a planetary scale, it's enormous. And Mercury is already weird. Its core makes up about 85% of the planet's radius. For comparison, Earth's core is about 54% of our radius. Some scientists think Mercury used to be much larger, until an ancient collision stripped away most of its outer layers, leaving behind what is basically a giant iron ball orbiting the Sun. So Mercury isn't just hot, it's slowly crumpling like a cosmic raisin. Very, very slowly. Number 5. Venus has a day. Longer than its year, Venus is the solar system's overachiever when it comes to weirdness. Let's start with the basics. A single day on Venus lasts 243 Earth days. But a year on Venus, one orbit around the Sun, takes 225 Earth days, which means a Venusian day is longer than its year. Imagine celebrating your birthday before the previous day even ended. But Venus isn't done being strange. It also rotates backwards compared to almost every other planet. This means the Sun on Venus rises in the west and sets in the east. Astronomers discovered this using radar in the 1960s from NASA's Goldstone facility. At first, the results were so bizarre, scientists thought they were wrong, but they weren't. Why does Venus rotate backwards? No one is 100% sure. One theory suggests the Sun's gravitational pull on Venus's thick atmosphere slowly altered its rotation over billions of years. Another theory says a massive collision flipped the planet early in its history. Either way, life on Venus would be strange. If you somehow survived the 900 degrees of surface temperature, the crushing pressure, and clouds of sulfuric acid, you'd experience exactly 2 sunrises in your entire lifetime. Which honestly sounds kind of peaceful, until you remember the acid clouds. Number 6. Mars has an underground lake. In 2018, scientists made a huge announcement. They had discovered liquid water on Mars. Everyone immediately imagined astronauts filling water bottles and building lakeside cabins. But the reality is less refreshing. Using radar on the Mars Express spacecraft, researchers detected a lake buried beneath 1.5 kilometers of ice near Mars's south pole. It's about 20 kilometers across, but the water isn't exactly drinkable. It's almost certainly a super salty brine, packed with magnesium, calcium, and sodium perchlorates. Basically, toxic chemical soup. The temperature down there is around 68 degrees. So why isn't it frozen solid? Because the extreme salt concentration lowers the freezing point. Think of it as the universe's worst margarita. But here's the exciting part. On Earth, certain microbes called halophiles survive in extremely salty, freezing environments, including places like Antarctica's Don Juan Pond. So if life exists on Mars today, it might be hiding in a pitch-black, freezing, toxic lake under a mile of ice. Which sounds like the plot of a sci-fi horror movie. But scientifically, it's possible. Number 7. Saturn has a giant hexagon. Nature loves circles. Planets are round. Storms are circular. Hurricanes spin like giant atmospheric donuts. So when spacecraft first saw a perfect hexagon at Saturn's North Pole, Scientists thought the camera was broken, but it wasn't. Saturn has a massive six-sided storm. Each side of the hexagon is about 13,800 kilometers long. That's wider than the entire Earth. The shape was first spotted by Voyager spacecraft in the 1980s. Later, Cassini confirmed it in stunning detail. The hexagon rotates once every 10 hours and 39 minutes, matching Saturn's internal rotation. Scientists recreated something similar in laboratory experiments. By spinning fluids in tanks, they produced hexagonal patterns when fast jet streams interact with slower surrounding air. So the hexagon is probably a gigantic standing wave in Saturn's atmosphere. But here's the weirdest detail. Between 2012 and 2016, the hexagon changed color from blue to gold as Saturn's seasons shifted. Even after decades of study, scientists still aren't entirely sure why it's a hexagon instead of a circle, which means Saturn is basically running a planet-sized geometry experiment we don't fully understand. Number 8. Triton is being torn apart. Neptune's largest moon, Triton, is a rebel. Almost every major moon in the solar system orbits its planet in the same direction the planet spins. Triton does the opposite. It orbits backwards. This retrograde orbit tells scientists something important. Triton probably didn't form around Neptune. Instead, it was likely a captured object from the Kuiper Belt, the icy region beyond Neptune. Basically a cousin of Pluto that got kidnapped by Neptune's gravity. But that capture has consequences. Triton's backward orbit causes tidal forces that slowly pull it closer to Neptune. Over billions of years, its orbit is shrinking. Eventually, in about 3.6 billion years, Triton will cross something called the Roche limit. At that point, Neptune's gravity will literally tear the moon apart. The debris will spread out into a massive ring system, meaning future Neptune could end up looking a lot like Saturn. So somewhere in the distant future, an alien astronomer might look at Neptune and say, "Wow, beautiful rings," not realizing there used to be an entire moon. Number 9. Pluto has skyscraper mountains. For 85 years after its discovery in 1930, Pluto was basically a blurry dot. Scientists assumed it was a frozen, boring ice ball. Then NASA's New Horizons spacecraft flew past in 2015. And Pluto said, surprise, it has massive mountain ranges. Some peaks reach 3,500 meters high, similar to the Rockies. Even stranger, they're made mostly of water ice. At Pluto's temperature, water ice is as hard as rock. But the biggest surprise was geological activity. The famous heart-shaped region, called Tombor Regio, contains a vast plain of nitrogen ice. That ice slowly convects like lava in a lava lamp. Warm nitrogen rises, cools, sinks, and rises again. The surface essentially resurfaces itself every 500,000 years, which is why it has almost no craters. Which means Pluto is geologically alive. And scientists still aren't sure where the energy driving this activity comes from. For a planet we once considered boring, Pluto turned out to be one of the most fascinating worlds in the solar system. Number 10. Jupiter, Earth's bodyguard and occasional assassin. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. Its gravity is enormous. And some scientists think that gravity might be the reason life exists on Earth at all. Jupiter acts like a cosmic shield. It intercepts comets and asteroids that might otherwise slam into the inner solar system. We saw this happen in 1994 when comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 was ripped apart by Jupiter's gravity. 21 fragments smashed into the planet in the largest collision ever observed. Each impact released energy comparable to millions of nuclear bombs. If that comet had hit Earth, it would have been catastrophic. So Jupiter protects us. But there's a catch. Other simulations suggest Jupiter sometimes does the opposite. Its gravity can fling comets toward the inner solar system like a cosmic slingshot, which means Jupiter may have prevented some extinction events and caused others. So Jupiter might be both Earth's bodyguard and its occasional hitman, which feels very on-brand for the biggest, most chaotic planet in the neighborhood. Every one of these discoveries came from scientists chasing tiny signals buried in mountains of data, spacecraft flying billions of kilometers, telescopes detecting whispers of molecules, and decades of patience. The solar system isn't a finished textbook. It's an unfinished story. And if these 10 discoveries are any clue, The next chapter is probably going to be even stranger.